Any day, any moment.
Okay, we're on the air, folks. So, welcome everyone this evening, and a warm summer evening, and that's pretty nice to be able to see people are attending when the weather's so beautiful outside. Would you like to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Things are looking up.
Olson. Here. Collins.
Here.
Johnson. Here. Kellum.
Here.
Kopsinski.
Here.
Coburn.
Here.
Okay, and on our scheduled business this evening, first this time is business from the public. Is there anyone here this evening that would like to bring an item forward? Okay, yeah, Jim.
Jim Clausen, 1403 15th Albany. I was reading about how the LBCC wants, $3.2 million, I think it was, for educational stuff, and I thought I'd share some of my experience with that type of thing. I took a class quite a few years ago in AutoCAD at a community college, and I was out of work at the time, and I figured it'd be a good thing to do to enhance my abilities in getting a job. And I've been a machinist for 40 years. I know it inside and out. I know exactly what they do with the computerized stuff. I've done tons of them. I've run Fanuc, Yaznak, Herco. I've run all sorts of knee-mills with CNC equipment on it. And I know the basics on all the manual stuff. But when I took the AutoCAD class, I was amazed because the teacher knew absolutely nothing about the AutoCAD. He knew absolutely nothing about AutoCAD. What I had it to do with AutoCAD, you have to be very precise with the lines that you draw. They have to be exactly what you're looking for in a part. We're talking like a third of the thickness of one of your hairs for sizes. Those lines have to be right there. He had a thing in the workbook, and it wasn't you weren't able to draw it from the numbers in the workbook accurately. And I mentioned it to him. I says, well, how do I do this accurately? And he says you can't just sketch it, which is the old way the drafters used to do it. They used to sketch that stuff in and just kind of flub it. I learned so much more on the job training with that stuff, working closely with the boss, because I got a job right after that, and using some AutoCAD. But I had to learn it through him, not that class, because they had their thing was not geared towards what the actual real world was doing. At the end of the class, because I told the guy I didn't care about the grade, wasn't there for a grade, didn't care about the grade, but I did continue to take the class because there were other things in it that I was learning that we didn't use at work. And he approached me at the end of the semester when I came in to get my final book thing that we handed in, and asked me if I'd be interested in. He says, "You don't even have to show up at the class." He says, "Oh, but I need bodies in that class." That's all he was interested in, was bodies. He wanted bodies in that class because he was low on account, and he couldn't open the class without the minimal amount of people in the class. He says, "You don't even have to show up." And he says, "I'll pass you during the thing." I probably got a degree in drawing programs by now. But that was one of my experiences with it. I also took a computerized class on programming, and they did a lot of stuff with what they call G code, which is the language of the computers, and they don't even, you use that a little bit on the machines now, and you got to know your way through it, but most of the stuff that they do is through CAD/CAM, and where you take the drawings and you manipulate it and put it through a post-processor and run your tools around it and all that stuff. They don't even, but they didn't do any of that kind of stuff back then. And the machines that they were teaching the CNC programming on were old tape machines. And the tape machines, I hadn't seen a tape machine in years. And so they were real up to date. I recently, about a year and a half ago, I had a place I was working at had a kid that was taking a class at LBCC on machine shop, and he'd spent about $10,000 on the class so far, and I think he said he had another 6 or so to go. And that class, he came into that shop, and he knew nothing. He knew absolutely nothing about real-world machining experience. The teacher in the class actually told the class, at least this is what he told me, that out of all the people, and there was about 30, 40 people in the class, he said, out of all of you, maybe 1 or 2 of you will find jobs at the end of this class. He says the rest of you won't be able to find anything. And that was at LBCC, and that was only about a year and a half ago.
Right.
That I'm questioning on giving LBCC $3.2 million, if my history with that stuff is any indication, it's not a good idea to throw away money like that. I can fully understand wanting to assist LBCC if their things are reasonable and going to be adequate for what they're doing, but as of a year and a half ago, they certainly weren't. I would question the wisdom of throwing $3.2 million at something. You tend to throw money at things, and it just doesn't seem to work out very well most of the time. Another interesting thing I had that on a different topic, the Supreme Court about a month and a half ago had a case come before it on city councils, from a city council, because they were introducing prayer at their meetings, and the Supreme Court upheld their ability to hold prayer at a city council meeting. If anybody's interested, I can send them the link on the story and on the thing. But I thought it might be something that the city council might consider here, rather than going by what's legal. Praying for the wisdom to do what's right might be a good way to open up the meetings and set a mindset of good forward-moving action. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Jim. Is there anyone else from business from the public? Okay, all right, not seeing anyone. Okay, council, you have an adoption of a resolution, and this is authorizing the chief of police to sign ongoing police vehicle lease contracts. And this is a resolution that's on page 4. Did you have any questions? I think Captain Heinrich is here. Any questions, or entertain a motion?
Move adoption of the resolution on page 4.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried. Next is adoption of the consent calendar, and if there isn't any items that need to be pulled off this evening, I'll entertain a motion.
Move for adoption of the consent calendar.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, all right. Next is award of bid, and this is on page 23. 3, starts on 23. Mark, did you want to?
Sure, I'll just point out, this is a cured-in-place pipe project, and you may recall, as we've gone through discussions about sewers in the CIP and the budget, it's one of several tools we use for addressing our needs in the sewer collection system. This is a trenchless technology in which they put a sleeve down in the pipe, it gets expanded and cured by steam, and essentially you get a new pipe. And it's very cost-effective. It cannot be used on every pipe. It depends on the defects that we're addressing. But the other trenchless technologies that we use are the pipe bursting. And so you'll see different contracts throughout the year for these different sewer collection system projects. You'll note that the project is over budget. The primary reason for that is when we put the budget together for the project, we had contact with some contractors about fixing the riverfront interceptor, and we were led to believe we could do a spot repair with this. And as we got into design, we learned that really was not a reliable repair methodology. So instead of doing a spot repair, we're doing the whole segment between manholes, and so that's why the budget is higher. I would like to also point out, again, going back to how far we've come in the last 3 years, if you were to go back and look at the CIP a year ago, you would have seen these specific pipe segments identified in the CIP for cured-in-place pipe replacement, and lo and behold, we're actually doing that. Prior to the information we have now, we were kind of seat of the pants, and we'd have something in the CIP one year and other stuff would pop up, but we have come a long way in being able to understand our system, target the resources we have to our biggest issues. So I'm happy to entertain any questions you have.
Rich, or Ray, then Rich? Yeah.
Do you perceive any companies in our local area that have the wherewithal to start getting into that kind of a business, if this is going to be an ongoing process, that we could, some of the bids are coming from way out of the, Salem, but I mean, nothing in Corvallis, Albany that you have heard of, or any businesses that might be getting into that kind of work?
So Pacific Excavation, they're listed in Eugene. They do have an Albany office. But the cured-in-place pipe process, at least up until a point, I'm not sure if it still is, a proprietary type of system that you've got to get some approval. You also have to have fairly specialized training in. I do think that both pipe bursting and cured-in-place pipe projects will become more and more familiar in this area, not only Albany, but other communities. And as that happens, likely more contractors will be certified and get the requirements they need to do the work.
For the benefit of those folks behind the cameras, pipe bursting is not what it sounds like. Can you explain for the public what the process is in a few sentences?
I can certainly try. Essentially, a new pipe is dragged behind a hammerhead that bursts or breaks up the old pipe, and we pull a new pipe right behind it.
Thread it through.
Right.
Yeah.
Couple questions. Mark,
Yeah.
are you familiar with the firm that was a low bid?
I am not, no.
And do we know if they have any local presence in Oregon at all?
I'm not familiar whether they do or not.
I guess, public law, the way it is, we're going to award a low bid, but I'm always a little cautious seeing somebody, long ways away and 25% low, particularly when they beat the local guys. That ought to raise some red flags. We've had those discussions, how it increased costs for the city to inspect them and stay right on top of them and so forth.
To your point, is there anything like a performance bond that's required?
Yeah, there'll be a performance bond and payment bond required.
And then apparently you're just going to award Schedule A,
That's correct.
and why is that?
Well, Schedule B did not include the riverfront interceptor portion. We broke that out because we weren't sure exactly what that cost would be. When the bids came in, we feel that the cost is within reason for us to address that issue on the riverfront interceptor.
So Schedule A is the complete project?
Correct.
Schedule B would have been just a portion of it,
That's correct.
as opposed to additional work?
That's correct.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
So are they, I mean, they have to meet the specifications of materials too, because it's just such a lot lower bid compared to the others. That's what's, makes
That's
me
right.
wonder is how are they going to be able to, you know?
Right, and, you know, that's the issue with competitive bid. We can't pick and choose as long as they are responsible bidders, and they say they can do the job. Now, obviously, it's city staff job to inspect and make sure that they do meet our standards and specifications during the project.
Wow, that's surprising. Okay, council, what would you like to do with this item?
Move for awarding the bid.
I'll second.
Okay, and is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried. All right, that's it on our agenda items, but you do have one in front of you on the dais, and this is over, a carryover from our last meeting. And this is over the 7-Eleven that's over on the Main Street project for their easement. So, Mark, would you like to discuss this item?
Sure, this was carried over because Councilor Coburn had some questions, and I was not able to answer them at the last meeting. And hopefully, I'm able to answer your questions here tonight. I also have Nolan Nelson here, who is our project engineer there, who can answer some detailed questions. You have 3 resolutions for 3 different easements before you, and I think the easiest thing for you to do is I'll give an overview. If you look, you have a copy of an email from the gentleman who owns the property the 7-Eleven is on, and if you flip that over, there's a map. And that map shows the roundabout, and there's 3 different colors there that depict the 3 easements that are in front of you. The orange is the access easement, allowing the 7-Eleven property to access over and across this new driveway. The purple is an easement for electrical conduit and wires, and those electrical conduit and wires are feeding that blue area, which is a new 7-Eleven pedestal sign, which that's the 3rd easement, is to allow them to put the sign there. And these easements were part of a negotiated agreement with the property owner of 7-Eleven. We are closing their driveway that's on Main Street, and in order to allow 7-Eleven to continue to function, staff came up with this access, and then the sign was part of that agreement. So I'm happy to try and answer your questions or have Nolan answer any detailed questions you have.
I think one of the questions last time was who would maintain the driveway or this easement, in essence?
That will be the city of Albany as the owner of that property. At a future date, Albany could choose to sell that property if someone would like to develop that small remainder, and then that requirement would go with the property.
Okay. The map is very helpful. It does put it into perspective, the driveway that he lost, and with that island in there, you can't go around the roundabout and use the driveway. So I think it's makes sense and seems fair to me.
And I think that is good, to be able to see what, by the city being able to own it, is we'd be able to do some enforcement in there too, just in case there ended up being people parking too long or starting to, you know, park overnight, things like that. We could be able to kind of see how it's going to work out for the neighborhood, so.
Is the parking for the exclusive use of 7-Eleven?
No, it's for any of the businesses in the area. And in fact, 7-Eleven has indicated that they have adequate parking. They're gaining a few spots because of this reconfiguration. Of course, a customer there could park, but it's not for the exclusive use, no.
And in the letter, too, it stated about security alarm could be using it, and that was a part of the neighborhood meeting, was security alarm was a little concerned about losing some parking, and this additional lot was going to help, you know, those area businesses.
Do we need to take each resolution independently, or can we have a
All
motion
three.
to adopt all 3?
You could adopt all 3 in a single motion.
I move that we adopt the 3 resolutions relative to the Main Street roundabout project.
That was a second. All right, Rich. Okay. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried. All right, and then business from the council. And let's see, Bessie, anything this evening?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Okay, Jill?
No, thanks.
Dick?
Yeah, and speaking of this last topic, I had a call from one of the businessmen at the shopping center there, and complaining about a fence, and I didn't go out and look at it myself, but I referred him to Ron Irish, and I called Ron, and Ron said he was just getting ready to go out there and look at the situation, so I don't know if city staff, did you hear any repercussions from that, or any?
I don't know the details about there was a question also about signage previously, and staff has addressed that to the satisfaction of the complainant on that. I'm not sure about the fence, but we'll work with the businesses out there as best we can to try to minimize the impact. Obviously, there is impact. Construction's messy, access is somewhat limited, but we're doing our best to minimize that.
And do we have a finishing date for that project? He was wondering about that.
It's mid-September. The contract,
Thinking that the project was really cutting down on the traffic through there, and cutting down on business there in general.
that very well could be.
And I tried to commiserate with him, but he was kind of exercised about the whole thing.
We do have a clause in our contract, a bonus for the contractor to finish early. We're trying to incentivize the contractor to get in and get out to try to minimize that window of the disruption. And so the contractor can earn some extra money if they get done early. And counter to that, if they get past their date, we will be assessing some significant liquidated damages. So the contractor should be motivated to get it done as quickly as possible.
Thank you.
We're on that, on the Main Street project, and since Nolan is here, Nolan, when there was the neighborhood meeting, was there any input at all from the neighborhood of what they would like to see in the center of the roundabout circle? Was it just going to be for regular landscaping, rocks and all?
Nobody really brought anything to us, so,
Okay.
yeah, it was...
Yeah, I mean, I've had one person has requested having it be as a lighted flagpole there. It's just a maintenance, and then who's going to go in and lower it to half-staff and, and the other maintenance on that. And so I just didn't know, because I told the person, the citizen, that it's really kind of up to what the neighborhood would really like to see for the center, but if they really never set any sort of preference, then it's more of our usual landscaping.
I know there was discussion on a flagpole issue there, but if it is something that encourages somebody to walk out there on a regular basis, it's not really a safe location to be constantly walking back and forth.
Yeah, I don't think I would want to.
I think Stacy Balcastro, our engineering manager, is working with Kate Portia on some potential ideas, since it is in the Cara district. So I think they were going to kind of brainstorm a few ideas and then bring those back for consideration of the council.
Okay, that'd be great. Great, thank you, Nolan.
It would be good.
All right, and Rich, anything?
I vote for concrete in the middle,
Yeah.
so trucks can drive over the top of it instead of
Oh.
having the problem at Waverly and Pacific and going around a corner.
Isn't that
That's-
amazing, that truck? I can't believe
Can
how
you
it
imagine
fell in half.
being one of the people who had to unload that
Oh.
truck
Yeah.
in 85 degrees inside of the,
Oh, or 100 degrees in there probably, but yeah, no, that was, I was amazed how a truck could fall apart like that, but, anything, Rich? Okay.
that was it.
Nothing, Ray? Okay, Floyd?
Just a question. I know we've finished the rail project to make the turn movement. Where are we in terms of the switching yard actually getting moved so we minimize the blockage on Queen?
I'm not sure. I would have to check with Ron, and we would have to work with Portland and Western to find out what their...
I think it would be good to at least get a target on when we can expect to have fewer blockages on Queen and the switching actually get moved? I get several questions a month about that.
Yep. I'll check on that and report back.
Thank you.
Never had a question. It was always great.
Lloyd?
I have nothing
Okay,
else,
all
thank you.
right. And I didn't have anything else this evening, so, and then, Mark, you had another item.
Well, I just wanted to make council aware of that the Bonneville Power Administration is going to be rebuilding their power lines, actually two transmission lines between Albany and Salem. And one of those transmission lines goes through North Albany, significant residential areas. They have an environmental assessment document that I just received yesterday. It's pretty thick. Looked through it and just pulled out a few things of note, and if you want more information, I can get you the website, or you can look at this book, but they're planning to replace all their wood poles along that line. Most of those wood poles are what they call H poles, so you have 2 or 3 wooden poles and then a wooden cross member. Many of the poles, actually 12 poles in North Albany, are going to be replaced with steel monopoles. And the reason for that is they're trying to move these lines into the center of their right-of-way as much as possible. The final date for getting your comments in on the environmental assessment document is August 6th, and they expect the final document to come out in November. So if you have any questions on that, let me know. All their work is going to be within the right-of-way. There is talk about some access roads. I haven't seen if they're changing anything in North Albany regarding their access roads, but their work should all happen within their easement, or as they call it, right-of-way.
Did you want to mention
Tower level?
the letter sent on the meeting, the public meeting,
Sure.
upcoming meeting?
Sure. There was a letter sent, and I'm trying to remember the date of the meeting now. It's August, I believe. So the one in Albany is at the Fairmount Grange. It's July 24th. It's an open house between 4 and 7 p.m. And that Grange is located at 835 North Albany Road.
And the time frame to get this all done?
The work done? I have not seen their construction schedule. Well, there's comment actually in here that said they plan to finalize the environmental assessment in November, and then they'll come up with a schedule, I think it is, if they choose to move forward. I can't imagine them not moving forward if their line is in as bad a shape as they indicate here, but I don't know their schedule for construction.
Are those 150 kV lines?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look through the document.
I can call.
Okay, all right, any questions? Is that it, Mark?
That's it?
Okay, any other staff have anything, Marilyn? Nothing? So, okay. So with that, we do have Kara next week, and then we have a work session July 21st, and regular session July 23rd. And with that, we will recess to executive session to discuss real property transactions in accordance with ORS 192.6602E. Okay, thank you, folks, for attending.